We're going to take a peek at After Effects CS4 here and just look at how we can use Stereo3D Toolbox with two different 3D cameras in After Effects to give us the stereoscopic effect. Now I'm just going to use a very basic example here, and I've just created the numbers 1, 2, and 3 using the text tool. But of course this applies to really any objects, any layers that you've put into 3D space. So this is just going to show you the basic workflow, and then you can apply it to your own compositions. The first thing we have to do is make sure that all of the layers that we want to be in 3D space are actually 3D layers. So on each layer we just make sure to put it into 3D mode. And you can see here that I'm using two views, horizontal, and this is actually the top view. So I'm looking down on my numbers 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see here, this is the number 2, and that's the number 1, and that's the number 3. So they're all on the same plane at the moment. So we're just going to move them around a bit. So I'll just turn down the number 3 one here, and then the position. This is the Z-axis, or for the Americans, the Z-axis. So we're just going to move it back. And then with the number 1, we're just going to bring that forward. So we'll do the same idea, go to position, and we'll just bring it, put that far forward. Okay, so now our 3 numbers are sitting in 3D space. But we don't have a 3D camera yet, so we have to create a 3D camera. So go up to the Layer menu and say New Camera. And the default camera will be a 50mm lens. So I'm going to give us a much wider lens. Let's say a 15mm. So we'll just say OK. And now it's created this new camera. I'm just going to switch to the hand tool here and move this up so we can see this camera relative to our 3 numbers here. So with our orbiting tool, I'll just orbit around here, and we can see that the camera is always looking at what's called the point of interest, which currently is set at the 0, 0 position here, these coordinates right in the center. Now we actually don't want to use the point of interest with our camera, because this is just going to cause us problems as we fly our camera around on a path. So we need to turn off the point of interest, and to do that we just click on our camera. We'll just take a look here. Point of interest is currently activated. We'll go to Layer, and then go to Transform, Auto Orient. And here, at the moment, it's set to look at the point of interest. We're just going to turn it off completely. So here we go. Our camera is dead center, and now our Z, we can push in and out with our camera like this. And now when I'm orienting the camera, it's not based on a point of interest. It's now using the orientation control here to direct the camera in different directions. Okay, so let's just reset that, and now we're just going to make a nice little camera move. So let's keyframe. Let's go in to our endpoint on this 30-second long piece here, and we'll just move in fairly close. Now what I'm going to do is I want this number 1 to jump off the screen. So I don't want to go so close that it will be occluded by the edge of the screen, as you can see in the top here. This is too close. So I'm just going to pull back here, and to any off-screen effect that we have in stereoscopic 3D, you don't want it to touch the edge of the screen, or that will just completely ruin the effect. Your brain won't be able to make sense of the fact that the stereoscopic cue is telling it that it's off the screen, but at the same time it's touching the edge of the screen. So you don't want to do that. But anyway, this is a good ending position, so we'll just keyframe it here. And then our starting position, I think we'll just move the camera over here. So now we have a real simple move, and we'll just position this somewhere in between and move the camera over here so we get a bit of a curve. So we're coming around like this and curving in. Okay, now the other thing we can do is actually keyframe the orientation as well, and this is why we didn't want to use a point of interest, because we're going to copy the orientation. We want the orientation to stay the same. So we can just adjust the orientation something like this, so we're always looking at those numbers over there, and at the point that we get to say around here, I want to be back looking straight ahead like this. Okay, and then we can adjust this keyframe a bit. Not bad. I'm just not liking this Bezier here. Just adjust the curve. That looks good. And we'll just adjust this Bezier as well. So we get a nice smooth curve. So here's our camera move. Okay, so this camera, we've got a nice move, we're happy with it, and this camera at this point, we're just going to assume that this is our dominant camera, and in the case of the plug-in, the dominant camera is the left camera. There are different modes of thinking on this, but that's just the way that we set up the plug-in. So what we're going to do is actually make a brand new camera, and it defaults to naming this camera Camera 2, and it keeps whatever we had used the last time when we made Camera 1. So we still want the 15mm focal length, which is great, and we'll just leave it on Camera 2 for now. And so now we have a brand new camera, Camera 2, and Camera 2 just defaults to the default position. But what we're actually going to do is this camera is going to mimic exactly what Camera 1 does, and then we're just going to put a little offset into it so that it's the right eye instead of the left eye. So just to keep things straight at this point, I'm just going to click on Camera 1, press the return key, and just turn the 1 into the word left. Same thing for Camera 2, hit the return key, and call it right. And the other thing that I want to do is click on the position, go up to the animation menu, and separate the dimensions so that we just have an X position dimension here that we're going to work with, and do the same thing for the new camera. So position, animation, separate dimensions. Now the other thing, the point of interest is still turned on the right camera here, so we'll just click on it, layer, transform, auto orient, and we don't want to orient it towards the point of interest, we just want to turn that off. Great, so now it's gone away. Now I'm going to select all of these options here, and you don't have to do all of them if you don't want to. And we'll just clear some space here so we can see what's going on here. And I'm going to add expressions. With the expressions, we can just basically copy anything from anywhere else in our composition. So I've just selected them all, go up to animation, add expression, and now they turn this kind of pinkish peachy color, and that means that they're tracking something. At the moment they're just tracking themselves, so nothing is happening. But if we turn them all down like this, now we can get the little pick whip. So for example, for X position, I'm just going to pick whip X position on our left camera. There we go. So now I get this line here that says I'm basically telling it that I'm going to take the value from this composition, camera left, transform X position. Now the only difference that I want to make to this is I want to add 5 pixels to it. So I'm going to shift it on the x-axis by 5 pixels. So I'm just going to literally put plus 5. That's it. Now for the rest of them, we don't need to change anything. We're just going to leave them as is. We'll just copy them. So for the Y, we're just going to copy the Y position on the left camera. Do the same for the Z. And then you can do the same for the orientation. So just select orientation. And then if you want, you can do the same for the rotation. We weren't using any rotations, but we might as well link them at this point.